Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you are doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Today, we are going to take a quick look at Destinies. Destinies is a 1 to 3 player story-driven, app-driven board game. Now, straight out of the gate, if you don't like app-driven games, just leave the video now. This is not going to be a game for you. This game won't convince you that app-based games are good, even though they are. And we don't need to read in the comments how you don't want video games in your board games and how you stare at a screen all day. And so you don't want to stare at a screen when you play a board game, how they aren't going to be around in 20 to 30 years. What do you want to play with your grandchildren? Or how you don't want your board games to need batteries. Okay, I got all of that out of the way. So we got all the criticisms covered of app-based games. Thank you. So Destinies is, let's read about this. This says, the prophets speak of the angel of death and his descent upon the earth to bring forth the end of days. The chosen few will be given the power to shape these ordeals and bring into others both punishment and salvation. Their deeds will be the testament to the will and strength of the mortal. Destinies is a competitive, story-driven game of adventure and exploration, mixing an app and a board game. The Destiny system offers a fully story-driven, app-supported RPG-like board game experience without the need for a game master. Each scenario pictures a part of a vivid world full of dark stories, epic characters, and mysteries to solve. Each player takes the role of a hero on a quest to fulfill their destiny. So when this game was on Kickstarter, I completely avoided it. One of the main reasons why I'm just a little tired of story-driven board games, because usually that just means that you're reading a book while sometimes playing a game. Campaign-based games have been a pretty big turnoff for me now because I just hardly ever get the time to play an entire campaign. So I just prefer shorter campaigns or one-and-done scenario, zero-to-hero type games. And the fact that this was billed very strongly as being a competitive game, and that just didn't sound interesting to me. But there was about a month ago, or a month total, a month of activity on the Dungeon Dive Facebook group where a bunch of people were really into and just really digging Destinies. And so I decided to pick it up because it started to sound more and more interesting. I played it solo and I didn't really care for it. The solo game, it wasn't really offering much to me. I feel like there was a lot of just kind of reading and not really, it wasn't engaging me on any level really. But I decided to hold on to the game and play it with my little game group with my wife and our 2 friends. And we play Mansions of Madness a lot. And we really like Mansions of Madness. And we like that level of game. I think you could also introduce, I'm going to introduce, role player adventures to that group eventually. And I wanted to hang on to this to play with them because I thought that they would really enjoy the game. And I am super glad I did. Last Friday night we got together. They wanted to play Mansions of Madness, but I convinced them to try Destiny. I said, hey, I think you guys are really going to like Destinies. I just wanted to play something different. And so we did, and we loved it. We had a fantastic time. We played with 4, and the other couple, each of them controlled the character, and my wife and I, we shared a character. We played as a team because it does only go up to 3 players, which is another kind of weird thing about the game. But I also kind of get it because I think at 3 players, it is perfectly balanced with the amount of downtime. If you added a 4th player to this game, and you had to wait one more turn for it to be your turn again, I think it would be too much. 3 players is kind of a perfect amount to where you can sit back, you can think about what you did, you can get invested a little bit into what is happening to the other players and their characters, and then by the time it's your turn, you're ready for it to be your turn again. So what are you actually doing in Destinies? Well, in Destinies, you are going to be taking control of a character. The 3 characters that you can play at the beginning of the game are the Witch, the Huntsman, and the Noble. And each character has 2 different destinies. And the first character to complete one of their destinies is the winner of the game. Those destinies are going to be detailed by these QR codes that you can scan and read about in the app, or you can take a look at them at the back. And I don't want to show too much about this game because the discovery is a big part of it. But each character does have a little story to read at the top there, and then it does give them a clue as to what their destinies are. The clue information on the back of the character cards is really the only information that is kept secret throughout the game. Everything else you are doing, you are reading out loud, you are reading from the app out loud, and so the other characters can get invested into the stories, but they may not be completely aware of what either one of your goals are. And as a player, you can choose which goal to pursue. You can try to pursue both of them, but then commit to one. You are probably better off committing to one earlier than later, because the other players are also going to be doing that if you care about winning. My friend who we were playing with, who didn't really care about winning, she was just having a fun time going around the village, trying to steal as much stuff as she could, and she was having an absolute blast. So I think it is a little bit of like a sandbox style game in which you can create your own fun. So these three characters are available at the beginning scenario, which is like a standalone scenario. And then there are four interconnected scenarios that form a little campaign. And as you are playing those scenarios, you will eventually be able to play other characters such as soldiers, the faithless, the coward, the cruel, the wise, the humble, the righteous, savior, corrupter, the guardian, the woodsman, and the nun. And each one of these characters also has their little story and also has two different destinies that they can pick. So you can see how you could take the same character maybe through the same story twice to get a little bit of a different outcome depending on which destiny you choose to follow. The bulk of the game is played through an app, and the app is pretty easy to use. You're going to be reading stories, you're going to be scanning cards, you're going to be scanning various QR codes. And then the app is going to tell you how you're going to be setting up your tiles. And the tiles are going to be the village that you are exploring. So it'll tell you to set up this tile here. And maybe you will set up, if you start here, maybe you will set up other tiles around that starting tile. And then as you explore those tiles, you will flip them over and they will connect to create a larger map. You will be moving around the tiles. The buildings on the map will usually be marked with some kind of token here that will signify that you can explore that area. Maybe you can explore that boat. You will also be setting up these tiny little miniatures, more on them later, in some areas to maybe interact with an NPC. And these miniatures, these NPC miniatures, they will kind of move around too. Some of them actually have their own stories, their own places where they are going to go, which is kind of cool. But eventually, I think our map for the first scenario ended up being like 5x4. So it wasn't huge, which was nice. It wasn't a sprawling map. It was manageable. And it looks nice on the table. There's some nice detail. You do want to pay attention to the things that you see on the map because you will get clues as to kind of like the details of the area. You will be going from location to location. Often you will be getting items, and there are a whole bunch of different items to get. These are kind of the mundane items, so you can get things like horses and a bloody trophy and shields, bows and arrows, axes, talisman, food, rosaries, holy water, herbs, swords, traps, ropes, spades, candles, dice, all kinds of different things. And each one of those does have a QR code on it. And there will be times throughout the adventure where you will have an option to use an item. And there are actually some elements where you can think outside of the box a little bit. And I really enjoyed that. We had a good time coming up with some unique ways to use items. Like I used a sword in a way that I thought for sure the game wouldn't allow. Or I used an herb in a way that maybe wasn't actually mentioned on the card, and it worked. So there are some ways to scan the items and have them do somewhat surprising things in the story. It's not a lot of the times when these kinds of games where you have items that you use in an adventure game or one of those like exit games, or even in role player adventures, it always has to be the exact right item that the game is asking you for. But this game seems to allow for a little bit of experimentation in how you use the item, or at least it is asking the characters or the players to come up with those neat solutions. Then there's also a whole bunch of these red banded items, and these are more quest based. These are more mystical. These items, as you get them, usually mean that you are progressing your character's destiny. You are pushing the story forward. So anytime you get one of these, you learn to pay attention to what is going on, where you got it, who gave it to you, and what it can unlock going forward. Now, your characters are pretty interesting in the way that the stats work, and I do really like the way the stat system works. As you are moving throughout the game, you are going to be taking different stats. So your character is just set up like this. You have your character card here. You have your stats. You have intelligence, agility or dexterity, and strength. And you always have these two dice here, and you're going to have to pass certain checks throughout the game. Sometimes you can use your items to augment those checks, and there will be times when you can talk to different NPCs to maybe help augment, help the stat check in certain ways. But normally what you're going to be doing is you're going to be rolling your 2d6. Let's say I was doing a knowledge check, an intelligence check, and I would have 7. Then I would look at my track here. I would find 7. And then wherever these tokens are below that, that's how many successes that I would get. Throughout the game, you're going to have opportunities to get experience points. And with these experience points, you can spend those experience points to lower your tokens on your track a certain number of spaces, making it so you have more successes lower on the track, so you get more chances to get more successes. Usually, you're going to want probably like 2 successes is a really good check. Some of them need 4, a few need 6. And you think, well, how can you get 6 successes? Well, sometimes at the beginning of every turn, you will recharge one of your fate die, and these get added to your pool, and you can choose to use those whenever you want. So you can roll a big pool of dice to do a big check, and these you can add to your total, or they also have an automatic success. So when you really want to save up for a big check, you want to roll a big pool of die, and you want to hope to get a whole bunch of those and some large numbers, and hope you have enough stat points to pass in that check. And at other times, you are also going to be earning money, and the money you can spend at different shops. And as you explore the town and you find, maybe you find like a gypsy camp here where you can go to their tent and you can buy certain items. Maybe you can go to a store or a hut, or a church has items for sale or something. Well, then you're going to be told to go through the deck of items. You're going to be told to pull out certain items, and then you will use these tokens here, one on the stack of cards, one on the map card showing where that store is. Then that becomes a store that you can revisit later on to buy whatever is left. So overall, I had a fantastic time on our adventure. My wife and I, we played the nobleman, and his goal, he was kind of a disgraced nobleman, and our destiny was to become a hero, basically. And we ended up winning. One of our friends, he was like also on his end game. At a certain point in your character's destiny and the story, you will get to progress to the end game, and that kind of puts the pressure on the other players. And once that happens, when it's your turn, you're kind of playing almost a different kind of game where you are basically just playing in the app, utilizing your dice, utilizing your skill checks, and smartly using your items. And we had a really fun time using the items that we had been given. I'm being a little vague here, just because I don't want to give too much away. But overall, I think this game is really fun, and our group is going to be playing through the campaign. We had a blast. So I'm really glad I kept the game and tried it as a group. And I think if you were playing with 4, and 2 couples, or even 3 couples, playing as teams, controlling one character, I found that really fun. My wife and I really enjoyed that a lot. My big complaint with the game is the miniatures. They are absolutely worthless in the game. Not only do they make, so this game could have been an incredible small box game. If you shrunk the character cards, the placards, the placemats, the character mats, just a little bit, this entire game and its expansion could fit in a box this size, and it could have been a great little box game. But there is this just gross tendency that I absolutely hate these days to cram stupid plastic into every single game. There are no tactical decisions in this game. There is no map placement. Facing never matters. Nothing about these miniatures add anything to the game. As a matter of fact, they detract from the game because the main minis are so tiny and there are so many of them. And when you're playing on a larger table, it becomes very hard to tell which mini is which. And multiple times throughout the game, we moved the wrong mini. We ended up having to be where we put NPCs on top of other tokens just so we could keep them apart. This game all of these minis should have been represented on tokens with a profile picture that is easily recognizable from sitting way far away on a table. And the game could have come in a much, much smaller box at a much, much smaller price with less environmental impact. The board game industry's love affair with plastic has got to end, and it's getting ridiculous. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you how ridiculous it is getting. I like this game so much that I bought the expansion. The expansion just arrived. The expansion is in the same size box as the base game. Everything in the expansion fits in the tiniest little corner of the box. The only reason this expansion comes in a box this big is because of this stupid miniature that does absolutely nothing for the game. All this does is make an environmental impact of plastic that probably can't be recycled, because most plastic actually can't and is not recycled because it costs too much to actually recycle it. So this is probably going to end up in some landfill somewhere, and it adds nothing to the game. On top of that, all of this could have been, even with the base game, could have fit inside a small box like this. But because of the plastic and because of the insert that also goes in the base game, this expansion, the components for this expansion cannot even fit in the box with the base game. So now I'm stuck with the box for the base game and this giant expansion box that is less than a quarter full. I have to now find a place for this as well. And that's just dumb. I'm sorry, but I'm so tired of this kind of stuff in board games, especially when a game is really good like this and I like everything else. Let's start celebrating games that come in smaller boxes with less plastic. Let's start celebrating games that come with tokens to represent the characters. They're easier to store. It's better for the environment. It makes boxes smaller. We can fit more games. We can buy more games. It'll drive the price down. A lot of the price and the time that we wait for a game is because of these dumb things. And yeah, it's just getting dumb. I mean, there's no reason for it. This game would actually be better without the minis. It stores better, it would be cheaper, and it would play better. As it is, it's a great game. I had a really fun time with it, but this aspect right here really drives me crazy. I doubt that very many game creators watch this channel, and especially, this specific game creator. I can't remember who made this game. Who was it? Lucky Duck. If somebody from Lucky Duck is watching, ditch the plastic, guys. It's not needed. It's unnecessary. It doesn't add anything to the game. And you already have a great game. Have faith in your game. The plastic sells on Kickstarter, but start having faith in the thing that you are making. We don't need to spice things up with useless trinkets. So if you're looking for a fun, competitive, story-based app game with some neat mechanisms, some neat ways to use cards, and an interesting way to use the app that tells a pretty good story that you can have a lot of fun with, I do recommend Destinies. I was harping on it a lot with the plastic, but yeah, I really do recommend the game. I think it is a lot of fun, and I am really looking forward to playing more of it. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. We will talk to you later. Bye bye.